how do you use worship as a weapon? Now, the Bible speaks about how the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. That's 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4 and 5, I think it is. So worship is a weapon of our warfare. So you'll look in the word and you'll see that there's been many times when the enemies came up against Israel and Israel used praise and worship and it overwhelmed the enemy. God turned up and things started to change. So it's the same with us. Weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Worship is a weapon. So when you're being overwhelmed by the enemy, get into worship, get into praise, because when you worship and praise, it's going to activate God in your life. Well, God's already activated in your life. But what worship and praise is going to do is going to shift the atmosphere, shift your perspective, and increase and raise your faith and belief and confidence in God. And in your confidence and faith in God, God respects that. The Bible says without faith, it's impossible to please him, for we must believe that he is and that he's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. It says that in the book of Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6. So when we start to worship, we start to trust God. When we start to worship and praise, our faith will elevate and our faith will activate God in our life, because we're going to have a shifted mindset, a shifted perspective, and we're going to start to have more confidence in God. And God will start unleashing on your enemies and unleashing and changing atmospheres or changing your situations in your life. The demonic hordes will be chased off, because when you start to worship, the Bible says in the book of John chapter 4 verse 23 and 24 that God is, the Father is seeking for those who will worship him and those who worship him in spirit and in truth. So when you worship God, God is attracted to worship. It increases the presence of God where you are, and demons can't stand in the presence of God. That's why the more you worship, the more you praise, is the less demonic activity you're going to have in your life. So let's get into worship.